Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is not here again this week. He has been off gallivanting around. I don't know where he is. Oh, there he is.
Hello. Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up. Did I say that right?
Surprised you
got
remembered.
it. Yeah, you nailed
I had
it.
to think about it for a second.
Had been sat in that chair for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's been a
Here we are.
been a
but-
bit.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. We got calls coming in, so we're going to just put you off for a while.
I don't get me started, so keep calling.
All right. 866-594-4150. Let's start with Shane. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Shane, what can we do for you?
Hey.
Oh,
I've got a 19. Am I cutting out?
Yeah, you keep cutting out there. Did you do something different? Make a move. Move your head. Oh,
Yeah, I've got a. Move my head.
all right. Try again.
No, I've got a 1970 CB 350, and I'm just not familiar with these bikes. And I've got a gas tank with rust in it, so I'm wondering if you got how to fix that or help. I got the sediment out of it, but it still has rust kind of layered in there, I guess.
I had a 1970 CB 350 in 1977, and it had rust in the gas tank. So what you're going to do?
We know what to do, don't we?
We
Shane?
do.
Because of rust.
Because of rust.
Yeah,
Rust will fix the rust.
that's right.
So the first thing you're going to do is take that fuel petcock off the bottom of the tank, or you're going to ruin it. And good luck finding another one.
Okay.
I
Just
bet.
probably not going to happen. Take it off.
Perfect. 'Cause
We had a
Take
hard
it
enough
off.
time finding one back in the 70s.
Right.
But take that thing off of the bottom, and then you are going to want to plug that hole with something plastic that will not be eaten by what you're going to put in the tank. Little red plastic plug. They make plastic plugs you can get at the hardware store.
Not a cork stopper or a rubber stopper.
Cork is fine.
Okay.
Rubber's fine. Just not metal.
Okay.
So plug off that hole in the bottom, and then you are going to fill up the fuel tank to the very top with apple cider vinegar. And you're going to leave it in there. You're going to leave it in there for like a week. And then you're going to take the cap off and look in there with a flashlight and see if all the rust is gone. And if it's not, leave it in there another week. And then dump it out, look around, see if you've got, and if the rust is all gone. And if it's still got a little, and it might because it's old, fill it up again with some fresh apple cider vinegar that's got a little more acidity to it. And it's going to slowly eat away the rust, but not the metal. It's not going to be so bad that it's going to eat it away super fast. If you want a quicker job, you can buy acid to do it. It's a little harder to dispose of. You're going to have to use baking soda to neutralize it and everything to dispose of it. And it's going to eat the metal really quick and can get into the seams and things. So that's an option. But once you get it 100% clean inside, they do make some fuel tank liner kits that you can pick up from a lot of auto parts stores still carry them. You pour it into a completely clean and dry tank, and you just roll the tank around until it coats every surface of the inside of the tank, and it leaves a polymer coating that dries inside, and then the tank can be used. It's good from now on, basically, as long as you don't get moisture back in there. And if you use a fuel stabilizer that prevents rust, that fuel stabilizer will keep it clean in there for a long time. I did this on my Model T gas tank. I put the apple cider vinegar in there. It was in there about 4 weeks, and it completely cleaned it like brand new inside.
Why cider vinegar instead of just vinegar?
Well, the apple cider vinegar has more acidity to it than regular vinegar does. At least that's what I never measured it, but I put it in there, and it works, and it smells good too.
So in your Model T, I'm trying to remember, Russ, you never did the liner on that, did you?
No, I never lined it, and it's been fine. So what I did is once I cleaned it, I put fuel in it, and I keep a additive in there all the time, and that additive prevents rust. It's got a vaporization action that stays in the tank and just keeps it from rusting.
Because I know we did that with Nordstrom's Factor Performance on a tank or two. Or no, was
yeah.
And was it the old forklift?
Forklift.
The KD forklift?
Cadillac, yeah.
Yeah. And then, but you've sometimes use a liner, sometimes haven't used a liner, depending
Right.
how
As
it turns
long
out.
as if I'm using it, I know that I'm going to keep fuel in it and I'm going to keep an additive in it. I don't know how a customer is going to do it, so
Right.
you're going to have to line it because it may just be stored empty or something.
Have you ever had a problem with that liner going to heck and just making a big old mess?
Never, as long as it dries thoroughly. I've had friends put it in there, and that later that day they're excited to get their three-wheeler out,
Sure.
and they put gas in it and they go drive it, and then it gets into the carburetor and everything's ruined.
Same reason I was no good at models. I couldn't
Right.
wait.
Couldn't wait for the glue to dry.
Couldn't wait for the glue to dry
Yeah.
to paint. I couldn't wait for the paint to dry to put it together.
Mhm.
Just no patience.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I got one that looked good.
I had a lot of gray models growing up too, where I just would put it together.
Pre-painted snap togethers. Oh, I could knock them out.
Does that help you out there, Shane?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That's very helpful. That's going to save me a ton of time. So appreciate the advice. Appreciate the two of it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for the call. Would you, Shannon, when he checks it after a week, is he trying to check through the vinegar? Because I would empty it and just use fresh vinegar right
Well, the
away.
first week, as it sits, so you've poured it in, you haven't disturbed it. Everything's going to settle to the bottom. That's coming off the top,
Right.
so you should be able to see in there pretty good.
Okay.
But that second week, it's going to start getting really cloudy, especially if you move it around a look. So you're going to need to dump it out and put fresh in there. It's not that expensive. You're going to buy it by the gallon at your grocery store. Have we ever said go to the grocery store and fix your car?
Maybe the last time we answered this question.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, just pick that up and put it in there.
It'll be one of the more affordable, off-the-shelf fluids you'll put in your car.
And if you've got rusty tools, it'll clean up rusty tools, lawnmower blades, anything that has rust on it. You throw an
I've
apple
seen a
cider
few
vinegar.
people's coffee cups that could use this.
No kidding.
Oh my gosh, there's some things growing in those babies. Whew.
Yeah, it's really neat. I mean, just science. We had a FFA group in here earlier today. And
Fulda, Minnesota chapter had their
Yeah.
leadership team in here to say hello on their. They're going to take a tour of the facility. And
And
Nice.
they, so we're talking ag right now, and we're talking ag products to clean your.
I like when the vinegar, when the gallon jugs of vinegar aren't in the vinegar aisle, but they're in the bulk aisle. Because I like to go to the
Sure.
bulk aisle every once in a while. I maybe have had to shop there twice in my life, but I like to go down it every once in a while and go, man, I wonder what I could do with that.
Do you ever-
Those beans.
You ever make rockets out of baking soda and vinegar
Nah.
or anything like that?
That's a
Chris says beans, and Russ says, "You ever make rockets?"
There's been some propulsion.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
I go, man, look all that nacho cheese. And it's cheap. I could get that giant can of cheese for cheap. I should get that in some chips.
Well, if only I had a dispenser.
Yes. Keep it warm. Get the was that
We're-
the beans or the cheese?
Chris, you're lost right now.
I'm just imagining a big
Come back.
can of mayo.
Come back, Chris. Come back. What else? Yeah, that's that. When you see that big thing of mayo,
You go,
I want to have a burger stand,
It's only like $7.
like a fair burger stand
With a big
with a big old.
where you're glopping it on
Yeah.
with the spatula.
Yeah, and it's
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
else has used it to do the ketchup at the same time.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. We're going to take a break. We'll talk to Craig next. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
Eight 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Craig now. And Craig, I feel like I got a note from our producer that I should just remind you to watch your language. We're on the radio. So, Craig, what can we do for you?
Yeah. Well, good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, I've got some issues here.
And not you personally. This is the
I got-
vehicle. We want to
Right.
make this as clear. Or at least we think so.
Well, depends on who you talk to, I guess. So yeah, I've got a 14 F150 that I bought brand new, and well, we're only going to talk about one of the issues that I've had. It's my oil pressure sending unit. I've replaced that 5 or 6 times, and it always starts the same. I get a little oil drip on the garage floor, and within 4,000 or 5,000 miles, I get the warning indicator that says no engine oil pressure. So after the 3rd, 4th time, you ignore the warning, and I kept driving it.
And so the last time that this happened, right at 200,000 miles, I ignored it. Had no issues driving it. Not until 2 weeks later, I went to start it when I had to go rescue my son who ran out of gas. And he, when he got to the truck, he tells me that the truck is knocking. And I shut the fan off and the radio off, and it's just rattling away. So we drove home, and he runs inside the house to tell Mom, Dad just blew up the engine in the truck. And she comes out, and she says, "Did you blow up the engine?" I laugh, and I said, "Yeah, listen to this." I used the remote start to hit the starter. It starts and runs beautifully. No knocking, no noise. I don't know what to do, so I shut it off. 3 weeks after that, I decided to take it in the garage and look at it. So I pull it in. I can't get it to reproduce the noise. It's saying no engine oil pressure the entire time. And so I take it for a test spin. I get about a mile away, and it starts to knock and rattle again. And so I get home. Now I open the hood and listen to it running, and it's coming from the top passenger side front. So I'm thinking cam phaser.
Now, what engine's in there?
It's got the V8.
Yeah, you've got that's what happened. Is it's a phaser noise, and it may have come from low pressure where it originally started on there.
You may actually have low oil pressure.
And definitely at the phaser.
Okay.
And with 200,000 miles, once it gets all the way up there, I mean, if you want to keep it going longer, you may be able to just put in the phaser lockout kit where you pull the actuators off and you replace them with solid gears. And then there's a programmer that plugs into it. They're now making those 50 state emissions legal. They had such a problem with them. I don't know how that worked.
Yeah, how'd they get that done?
It's an emissions device, but they defeated it and made it legal. So whatever they want to do, wish they'd do that with DEF fluid. Let's take it off and defeat it. But they
so
can't. But,
I gotta.
Yeah, I think
I gotta get my mind going right here, Russ. 2014. Is that a 5 liter or?
It's a 5 liter.
Yeah. Okay.
We have never replaced an oil pressure sending unit in one of those engines. Never. Or never had anybody call the show or email me or even ask the shop, hey, how much to put an oil pressure sending unit in? I've never heard of one failing, which is kind of is surprising if you've put so many in. Maybe you've got too much oil pressure.
Well, the third one that they did, the truck actually sat at the dealership for 2 weeks because they didn't have any. They told me that it's such a widespread. Well, this was back in 2016 when they did the third one.
Okay.
But,
so they were saying they were having problems with them at that point.
Maybe they did then, and we just missed them all.
Yeah, that could be Russ. They had a problem early on.
So now we've got a whole other slew of issues, and it may be related to all of this. So I've always changed engine oil when the meter inside the truck says to change it, which I know now you're not supposed to do. So for the last 80,000 miles, I've been changing it at 3,500, 4,500 miles. So I started pulling this thing apart. Started getting all the front off, all the accessories, and then when I pulled the passenger side valve cover off, I was met with a mountain of engine sludge. Bad that I couldn't get a cleaning brush through the alley, the oil galley going into the block. So I spent the day cleaning, and now I can get a brush through there. Is there a possibility that phaser's fine?
No.
All this is related to, it's not.
No, it's just worn out. It's got to be worn out. You can take it off, line all the timing up, block the chains, take it off, take it apart, look at it. You can see it. There's nothing fancy in there. It's got a little spring.
Okay.
It's got a couple pins. Make sure the pins are still there. If they've sheared off because of lack of oil and wear and heat, you can get a new phaser. Our partner over Dorman Products sells the whole thing, the whole phaser. They sell the whole chain kit. You can get a chain kit with chains, phasers, everything, solenoids, put it all in and fix that part. But you've also got it apart. So now's the time to put a lockout kit in it. You got 200,000 miles. There's about no way that thing is going to continue to have enough oil pressure to drive those actuators at this many miles. But I have seen those motors with almost 400,000 on them, and by an act of God, they're still running. I don't know why, with phasers. So if you were to put a lockout kit in there the thing could run on probably
A lot more
3
miles.
pounds of oil pressure, 4 pounds of pressure, and still run. So you might be able to keep. It sounds like you want to keep it going for a very long time here. So you might as well.
Have
just
you already
do that.
taken-
Well, I mean, I solved my whole issue by buying a Toyota Tundra, but this truck has been sitting for a year and a half in my garage, like this. And
Did
I
you
just
take
get
the
angry
timing
every
apart?
time No, the cover's still on it. I just started getting the accessories off, and then I thought, well, I should pull the valve cover off so I can take a look at the phasers, and that's when I saw all the sludge.
If you're an eternal optimist, you could put it back together,
Okay.
put the valve cover back on, and see what happens. With maybe you got a little more oil flow through there. But I'm with Russ. You've most likely killed those phasers already, or at least that one. And invest in a lockout kit, make it a weekend project, and put it back together and start using the truck again. I think you'd be fine, and you'll use it for a long time.
What's the lockout kit run as a job?
I think well, if he does it
If he's
himself,
doing it,
he's
yeah.
probably going to do it for about $700,
Okay.
7 to 9, somewhere in there. And you may just try to clean it up too, something a little more aggressive. Justice Brothers Oil System Cleaner is not going to clean off what you have quickly, but if you've got it apart, you can pull the oil drain plug out, get yourself like some diesel fuel, pour on the phasers
Okay,
directly.
I've done all of that.
Yeah,
I've
clean
done all of that.
Yeah, get it all out of there and drain it good.
Apple cider vinegar on this one?
No,
Okay,
no,
just
no.
check.
Too much water. And then
Anything else in the bulk aisle?
throw the cover,
Mayonnaise.
set the cover on top. You don't even have to get a new gasket. Just set the cover on it, start it, and see what it does. And then if it works, put a new gasket in it, put it back together.
Okay, so as far as the oil pressure, though, do you think the bottom end is still okay?
Well, if it doesn't
I guess
make
that's my biggest
noise,
worry.
if the bottom end makes noise, it's not okay. If it doesn't make noise, it's fine.
Right, and it never did. And when I dropped the oil, it only had about 1,000 miles on that oil change.
Mhm.
And the oil was still clean. I didn't see any gray material, any glitter.
Sure.
I cut open the filter. I used Wix filters. I cut that open and inspected all the pleats and the filter, and didn't find anything unusual. No metal, no gray, but I did find some like carbon and stuff in there.
Yeah. That's
Well, yeah,
from
you had
the
you had a
sludge.
mountain of sludge. You just told
Yeah.
us. What do you expect?
Yeah, what we see in those engines is usually top end noise and stuff. We rarely see a rod. I don't know if I've ever had one with a rod out on one of those engines. So the bottom ends are tougher than they.
You sound like you're up for an experiment. I mean, just what he's done already, Russ. Try it.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens.
Yeah, so I bought a factory phaser and solenoids and chain and guides and tensioners.
I think that is a waste
did that
of
like a
time
year
and money
ago.
for the miles that are on the engine myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't put phasers
I
in
think
it.
so.
Return them if you can and get a lockout kit.
Oh, okay.
Because your oil
Okay.
pressure is already low.
Right.
And the top end of that engine, whether you get all those patches is cleared out or not, you've got clearance issues on the cams more than likely, and
The problem is
you're losing oil pressure on the top end.
22 pounds at the oil pressure sending unit close to the pump does not mean you're going to have anywhere near that at the phaser. By the time it gets to the phaser, which is the last thing in line, it may have a half a pound, and that won't run it. It just can't. It doesn't have enough hydraulic pressure because it's bleeding to death inside as it goes through all the passages.
Because we've had people with EcoBoosts that we've recommended the phasers to, and they've put them in trucks that were making some pretty good noise. I mean, excuse me, the 5.4s, the earlier
Yeah, the
5.4s.
lockout kits.
And they put them in, and they drove those trucks, in some cases, 200,000 more miles.
Yeah.
I think Craig is right. He's frustrated, but a year and a half and all the stuff, 200,000 miles, he shouldn't be.
This
I don't
isn't a
think-
frustration anymore. This has become a journey.
Right? Yeah, it's developing you, Craig. Think of you're a different person now than you were. And I bet your son isn't. Just, hey, you teach him a lesson, too. Hey, don't
Don't give up on this.
we're buddies here. It's the guy. Don't go tell mom that kind of stuff. We got to handle this internally.
I can imagine that running in the house. Dad blew up the engine. Dad blew up the engine.
I can imagine that at my house. Absolutely. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. Don't forget you can watch our show on our YouTube channel. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel And join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com. You could win a hoodie.
Like Kelsey McLeod, congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu. And of course, Berkeley One Classic, celebrating 50 years of protecting you.
Nice.
Universal Technical Institute. I've had a lot of inquiries about that lately. They're like, hey, I heard on your show, what's that place you're talking about? Like, you listen, right? Oh, all the time. So I send them the link, uti.edu, and tell them, hey, this is
It's
the place
just
you're gonna
proof
go,
that
get a little
people are
info.
only ready to hear sometimes when they're ready to hear.
Absolutely.
Right. You
yeah.
hear it for an ongoing period
But
of
when
time.
you're ready
and
to
all of a
hear it-
sudden, now I need
Yeah.
the info.
But you know enough where to go.
Yeah, I get that all the time. Well, road ready wheels.
Yep.
It's like, I've heard you say wheels. Who is it? Because
Yeah,
now
what's
I
that
ran
wheel?
into a curb.
Yep. What's that wheel place?
Yeah. But UTI, Universal Technical Institute, if you're thinking now's the time, I'm old enough, or maybe I'm still young enough, or I just need to be a better mechanic so I can get a real job, make a little more money. UTI.edu. Check them out.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Tom. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Tom, what can we do for you?
Yes, good morning. First, a comment about the rusty gas tanks. Small engine repair shop, he had like a quart jar of small ball bearings, and he would put those into a small tank and shake it around, I guess. And I don't know if he used vinegar after that, but that's what he did. See, I have a 2012 F350 diesel 6.7. And I've had 3 turbos replaced on it. One at 8 years at about 66,000 miles, and then a half a year later at another 3,000 miles, and then 2.5 years later with another 23,000. And they had I plowed a lot of snow, and they commented that I shouldn't idle so much, and I never thought I did. But I'm wondering, plowing snow with a diesel, I would never rev it up that much. And if maybe the carbon, if that can cause a turbo to go bad, if the carbon from not revving it up much plowing snow could have anything to do with it.
For sure. Yeah, if you run those things at a low RPM and don't get that turbo boost up and get the plates inside to move and change the geometry of the turbo
Variable
changes.
vane turbos.
Yep, and it changes the boost pressure. And if that doesn't move, it's going to load up with that carbon from the exhaust, and it's going to jam it. We on the 6 liters, it's very common for us to take them apart and replace the swash plate inside of them and clean them up because they stick and they do not move. And we have saved a lot of turbos that way, where instead of buying a $2,000 turbo, we took it apart and it was a $500 repair to put some pieces in it and clean it up. That's basically what they're doing when they're rebuilding the thing anyways. They clean it up and make it look pretty and make sure it moves and say, here's a rebuild. More or less, and some companies will do more when you buy it. Like the Dorman turbos, that's a complete assembly. That's not just a rebuilt old turbo. That's all new and modified and updated to prevent some of those things. But still, if you're going to run them at low RPM like that, you need to be cleaning it. Doing an emission system cleaning kit. Our Justice Brothers emission system cleaning kit will help clean those things up. But the main thing is you got it at low RPM. If you're running at low RPM, you need to, like, you run a whole night of snow plowing. On the way home, it should probably be the faster road with a little more RPM to it to get it to clean it up a little bit and try to burn some of that off of there as you drive before it hardens up and starts sticking it. The Ram has got the same problem with the turbo doing that too at low RPM.
Or see how fast
plowing.
you can plow that last one. Just gun it.
That would be you, and then you'd break everything, Chris.
Yeah. Does that help you out there, Tom?
Yeah, so would in between or after I'm done plowing or in between jobs, putting the throttle down and let the shift up 2, 3, 4 gears, and just would that help?
Yeah, if you need to get it, it needs to be in gear under a load with the turbo working. It needs to go to full boost and no boost, so everything moves inside that turbo and it has more pressure, so it's trying to clean some of that stuff out.
Take the long way home. If
Yep.
there's an interstate loop around, a little interchange around the city or something, take the long way home.
When you're on those short trips or you're just under low boost conditions like in town, putting in between stoplights and it barely gets out of second gear, that's the problem.
So this is the same problem as we talk about people who drive 1 mile to work every day and don't.
No, because he's getting this engine completely warmed up. The oil system's hot, very
Yeah,
hot.
he's putting under stress.
But he's got exhaust, sooty exhaust blowing in through this turbo, and it just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
You need to. This is one case where blowing the cobwebs out actually is a thing.
Okay. There you go, Tom.
I really appreciate your show. Yeah, I appreciate your show. Thank you.
Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Bruce. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Bruce, what can we do for you?
Well, hey guys. First off, I want to say thanks for having this show. It's like having good friends talk about cars and trucks.
Thank you.
Bruce.
But anyway, you bet. I have a 2017 F150, and it has the 5-liter Coyote engine in it, 66,000 miles on it. And we went to go camping and pulling a camper that's well within the tow limits. But about 30 miles into the trip, the check engine light started flashing and it started missing real bad. And so we limped home, and again, about a 30-mile trip. And I got home and I checked the oil, and the oil was about 1.5 quarts low. It's never used oil before. And the number 7 spark plug was oil soaked. It was caked on there when I pulled it out. Have you guys ever heard of anything like that before?
That's serious. If it's on the electrode of the plug and it started burning oil and it misfired, then you've got something wrong inside that cylinder. The first step for that is going to be replace the plug, start it up, see if it runs on all 8 again, and drive it and see if it's fixed or if it continues to burn oil. If it continues to burn oil and that cylinder turns black again with oil, it's got a major issue going on inside, a broken ring or something like that. You could have something going on the head, but it's probably unlikely. It sounds like something failed on the bottom end there, which doesn't usually happen on these, but it could have.
That's what I thought.
I've had a few of these that have had some. Yeah, we've had some issues. Rods, no, not knocking, but bottom ends where pistons have gone. We've had some failures there. We haven't torn them down to see exactly what's going on the bottom end, but we do know that when we do a leak down test, we had excessive leak down past the piston into the crankcase.
Which would
So
be
there was
another
something
step
wrong.
for him to do next
Yeah.
if he wanted to also, while you've got that plug out, you could do a leak down test on it and see if you're getting any leak down past the cylinder, either through the crankcase or up through the top end.
Yeah, so the engines we had that we replaced, they were usually multiple cylinders, 2 or 3 that had oil in them like that, and they were burning so much oil they had to be replaced. So,
and before you did your little junket, you didn't have any problems. I'm assuming this, when you say the way you said 66,000 miles, this sounds like you're well cared for, prideful truck.
Well maintained. The local dealership did 99% of the service on it, and it's run flawlessly for 66,000 miles.
What size is that camper? You said it's within limits. I'm just kind of curious.
It's a 31-foot. Dry weight is 7,250, and it we don't carry fluids in it or anything, so we might add a couple, max a couple 100 pounds of groceries and stuff. And the tow capabilities, it has the tow package on the truck. It's 9,000 pounds.
Yeah, you're right up there, but you're not crazy. That 31-foot scared me when you said that, but they make them a lot lighter anymore, it seems like. That's for sure. Compared to, if you had a 31-footer back in the 70s, you need a semi. And if you had to pull Russ's camper that he's rebuilt, you need a semi because he put hardwood in it and everything.
That's it's 7,100 pounds.
Is it? I guess I couldn't remember what that way.
But it's smaller. It's not 31 feet.
No.
Cement counter.
Yeah.
Poor decision making on the materials there. Bruce, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Ford Truck Under the Hood show. Let's go to Oklahoma and talk to Mark. You got a pickup there, Mark?
Look what kind it is.
Oh, it's a Tacoma.
Yes.
Nice. All right, Mark. Let's have a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to me. I've got a 2013 Toyota Tacoma. It's a two-wheel drive, six-cylinder. My son bought it new, and I bought it from him a couple of years ago. It has 140,000 miles. And what it does is I live about, say, 2 miles from the first stoplight. So every morning I go get donuts, and I drive 2 miles, and I come up to that stoplight. If it's red, then I stop at the stoplight, and like half a second or a second after I stop with my foot on the brake, it'll jerk. Kind of like the jerk you might get when a car goes into gear or out of gear or something like that. But it just jerks, and it typically only does it the first time I come to a stop each morning. And then occasionally it'll do it once or twice more, but during the rest of the day it doesn't do it at all. I took it to the shop, and obviously it wouldn't do it while they were driving it. So,
have you ever noticed if it matters what kind of donuts that you buy?
Good question. That was the only thing I could think of.
I mean, if it's a jelly donut or if it's a glazed, do you get a different result?
Jelly. Those are too heavy. Yeah.
I'd be picking them up for Steve Martin or something.
So if he has done the donuts every morning, is there any change in the load rating in the vehicle?
It's before I get the donut.
Okay.
But over time.
That's true.
That's over time as the load rating in the vehicle changes.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Donuts every morning.
It was leaning left.
Every morning.
Well, they're not for me. I run an exercise company, and they're for my customers. Keep them coming back.
Donut today, roll tomorrow.
That's right.
It sounds like that transmission is staying in second gear as you approach the stop sign. And when you stop, it drops into that lower gear, and that's your little tunk, and it moves. I've seen this on numerous vehicles over the year, and it can be from the transmission having valves that are gummed up inside. So as it warms up and it's gone through that upshift, downshift process a couple times, it clears out and it'll work fine all day. At this point, because it's not permanent, it's still something that you should, if it's an issue with varnish on a valve, you should be able to put some transmission system cleaner in it, drive it, and have it work through those valves as you start and stop, shift a whole bunch of gears, and then completely flush it. You can find a shop in your area that uses the Justice Brothers transmission service kits. We use them. We put the cleaner in, we drive it, get it to shift through all the gears, then we flush it, then we put the protectant in the transmission, and that'll help with those valves. We've had this a number of times where that has cleared up those issues. Now, if it's always doing it, it never stops, that's going to be a hard one. But when it's just starting like this is the great time to get the maintenance involved to save yourself a huge failure issue.
I think that the problem, I'm sorry to keep going down this road, the problems with the truck could be very similar to the problems that you could develop with donuts every morning. You get some valves that are sticky, a little bit of buildup. If you catch it soon enough, you can do some work and you can get better, just like your truck.
Or you do what I would do and just drive it till it breaks.
So the comparison is donuts every morning till it's done.
Yep.
Drive the truck every morning till it's done.
Chris is driving till he's...
There's a lot of similarities what's going on with this truck.
I'm wearing out. I'm just going to drive her till she's dust. That's just all I got.
The preventative maintenance is, we're past that.
We're past that.
We're going to put the foot on the floor and see what happens.
It's never too late.
2020 hindsight, I should have never mentioned the donut.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, don't give me something to hook on to.
This guy's a smart cookie.
Cookies. Mark, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Phil. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Phil, what can we do for you?
Hi, I have a 2012 Ford F150 with the big six-cylinder and EcoBoost. I had about 1,000 miles ago. I had it out at your shop and got new coils in it because when I'm towing, I have the issue with misfiring, and so I thought from the diagnostics we couldn't find anything. So we talked about new coils and put those in, and now it's even worse whenever I'm towing. When I'm not towing, I don't get a problem whatsoever.
That's an easy fix. Load the vehicle with what you're normally towing and then bring it in for service. That's the only way if you've got a misfire under load, but it only does it under certain conditions, you have to duplicate those conditions. Otherwise, you look at a vehicle and say it's got this many miles on it, it's got all original tune-up equipment on it, you got a misfire when you're going under load. That's typically always an ignition type of miss. So you still could have an ignition miss. It's very possible. New parts aren't always foolproof, so you could have a crack in a spark plug that opens up when it gets hot, or even an aftermarket coil that has a problem. But the way to find that on anything is if it only does it when it's a certain way, you got to duplicate that condition. So when you bring one in, you're going to have to, if you've got a camper, you're going to have to put a camper on it, make an appointment so you can get it into the lot, when it's not full. But put the camper on it, load it up, and drive it out and know that it's doing it. So like, hey, on the way out here, it was doing it the whole way, so I know it's going to do it. And then we get in it, put the scanner on it, you look at the ignition, you look at the fuel, the timing, and see what is causing it to go away from that.
Right. I have read that it could be a fuel pump problem. Is that possible?
Doubtful. It would be more of a power loss than a miss, because if you have
that has happened too.
Okay, that's a new
happened.
one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to throw all that in there too, because if it's a power loss and a miss, we look a whole different direction. So power loss, where if you step on it, it feels like it's just stepping on a plum. It's just and doesn't really want to go, but it's still pulling. That can be aeration in the fuel because you've got a fuel pump issue going on, and it's supplying it, but it's supplying it at a poor rate, so it gives you a misfire and a power loss. If you have no power loss, but a misfire only where it jerks as you're pulling, fuel cutting off never cuts off smoothly to give a jerking feeling where it's instantly off, on, like turning the key on and off real quick. Ignition can, because it's a spark that just shuts down and then, like lightning, it instantly reignites. But if you've got a fuel issue, you can lose power and have a miss because it's gonna cut the fuel back and give more fuel to it. And we've seen a number of fuel pump control modules do that type of thing on many different models.
Okay. Well, I may just have to do that and bring it out to you again.
Load it up.
Phil, thanks very much for the
camper
call.
on there.
Is that, if I'm bringing it into the shop and I have that kind of, is that something where I can call my shop and say, all right, when should I bring this in? What can we,
not every shop is going to cooperate with that request.
I was just thinking,
they should.
If you can't fit in I fit in the lot, or
you're not waiting?
Will you meet me across the street?
Yeah, we just need to find out if
you got to schedule it.
Yeah, you got to schedule, find out if the lot has the room for it.
Yeah.
To get it in, and then it has to be left, but it needs to be loaded. You can put your camper on there, lock it up, do whatever you want, but it's got to be under those same conditions. Now, there are a lot of shops that right from the beginning will tell you, no, we're not going to work on one like that. If it's never been there and they say it only does it when I'm pulling, well, good luck. We're going to pass. There are so many shops lately that we've been getting customers coming in and they've been telling us the shop won't work on it. What do I do? Do you work on it? Occasionally, we say, yes, we do that. That's not a
So
problem.
you may have learned and became proficient about something
we do it
that
all the time.
somebody else doesn't.
But there are a number of things where we said, no, we do not do that. I had a customer call me that said they had called many shops asking if they could replace their airbags in a car after a collision because it was their fault and it was a customer pay thing. The body shop said, we are not going to put airbags in it because it's one of those under the Takata recall.
Right.
And it had already been recalled like 4 times, continuous failure. And they said, we're going to fix your car, but we're not going to fix the airbags. You'll have to go to a shop. Oh, no problem. I can get that done. Every shop said no.
Right.
So we took it to the dealership that makes the car. This car is 3 years old and out of warranty. Took it to the dealership and they said, we're not going to touch it because it's out of warranty. And he said, well, don't you work on it? You made it. Nope. We're not going to get into that. We got enough problem with Takata, which is not us. And
Right.
it's not the manufacturer. It's the company we buy them from. And so what's the person to do? And I said, well, I'm all about suggestions. There's a number of these little shops that don't care and they can do a pretty good job. They're not the normal one you would think of first, but they're willing to come to an auto recycling facility, purchase the parts, they'll put them in, they'll get you going. I don't know what the warranty is going to be, but they can do it safely, make it work. There are options. So he had no idea that those options existed. So I gave them to him. But this typical shop, there's a lot of shops now that are just not working on certain stuff.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Robin. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Robin, what can we do for you?
Hi there. I have a 2019 Chevy Cruze, and about a year ago, I got a notification from the company, the dealership, saying that my starter was going out. I had no indication of this whatsoever, so I kind of ignored it. So I didn't believe it. And then I was sitting there idling one day, and I got a low voltage on my infotainment system in front of me, and it was idling and not putting out enough volts to keep the car running, basically. And I didn't know what it was. So I kept an eye on it. I started looking at that one section that I can look at and watch my voltage go up and down as I drive.
Right.
Oh, I think we lost her there.
Uh-oh.
We'll answer her question.
What probably happened is it probably had low voltage alternator, not the starter, but it probably had low voltage. The car probably is equipped with OnStar, and if she has that package, it probably had a code, and they probably notified her that you have a code and a voltage issue.
And the dealership that she has registered in OnStar is the dealer of record.
So they notified her that you were having a failure in your car that could leave you stranded. We'd like to call you. And that happens occasionally when you're subscribed to that.
I wouldn't trust them either.
Yeah. But now that the problem has occurred and they've already told you, if you go into the dealer and they say, yeah, it is the alternator, it needs to be replaced, then you got a pretty good line you can track back and say, yeah, I guess they were right. But it doesn't always work that way. But in this case, it's good. Most of the time, it's just maintenance. You're due for oil change.
Right.
Come on in.
Yeah.
It sounds all plausible.
Yep.
That it's just following that track right along and getting it
And
handled.
it's something that people are not used to at all.
For sure, yeah. Robin, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's going to do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. We'll be back for hour 2 in just a couple minutes. Give us a call, 866-594-4150.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining the show.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. And Jesse is in Georgia and has been waiting while the music plays. So let's get right to Jesse. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, guys. I called a few weeks ago. I have a 2017 F-150 with the 5-liter V8. And it has an extended crank, not first thing in the morning, but about an hour to 3 hours after having ran. If I let it sit, it has a long crank. So your suggestion was to look at the air intake temperature, which I did. I have a small scanner, so the temperature seemed to stay kind of high even after sitting for a while. So I replaced the map sensor, which is where that sensor is located for the temperature. Did not solve the problem. I replaced the spark plugs because I bought it secondhand, not sure when they were changed, to some high ignitability spark plugs, and that did not solve the problem. But the new development I have is that for the first time, I put 85 in a flex fuel vehicle, and just trying it out, not thinking it's going to solve my problem, but it did. So the first time I cranked it, and for about 2 weeks while that tank of E85 was in it, it never had a long crank.
Yeah, that's what it wasn't the air intake, it was the alcohol content that we were talking about on that vehicle and the coolant temperature sensor. Because if the coolant temperature sensor doesn't, there's two things for that long crank on those. It's super common. If the coolant temperature sensor doesn't read the correct reading when it's warmed up, let's say the engine's 180 degrees, but the coolant temp sensor says 60, it's not going to crank right. But the air intake temperature is usually fine. But the other thing is alcohol content. You got to read that on the scanner. So if it says that it is at, let's say, 60% alcohol content, but you only have 10% in the tank, when you go to start that thing, it is going to dump fuel in there because it thinks that it has more alcohol. Therefore, it needs more fuel to run the engine at the correct ratio. Now, if you fill it up with alcohol and it already thinks it's got alcohol in it, it's going to be at the correct ratio because it takes more. The more alcohol you get, the more you have to pour in there because it takes more to run the engine on a standard engine. Now, if it was a race car engine, it'd be a whole different thing. It's higher compression. But on our standard engines like these, yeah, you're going to need more. So what needs to be done? This system should automatically correct. But what you'll need to do is you run your E85 that's in it until you get down to less than a quarter of a tank. I try to get down to an eighth if you know where it's going to run out. Because some people, we used to carry a gas can when we first buy a car and run it till it runs out so we'd know when the gauge says empty. That's the only way you could tell on the older ones. But then fill it up with regular fuel, whatever you want to run in it, and the system should automatically recalibrate when it sees that the tank, when you turn the key off and you turn it back on again and start it, has moved at least a certain percentage. It'll look to try to recalibrate. And then on those, it's very important on pretty much anything without an alcohol sensor built in, like let's just say 04 and newer, that you run it as low as possible, fill it up with what you want to run it as low as possible again, and change it. If you have, let's say, 3/4 of a tank and you're going on vacation, so you say, well, I'm just going to top it off and I'm going to switch fuels from 10% to 30 or 85, 55, whatever, it can cause a huge problem with them. And some of them, they do it anyways. They get whacked out of range just running regular fuel in them. And we have to go in and manually reset them with our scan tool. And then they start. GM's the worst one, like Suburbans and pickups in that 13 to, let's say 9 to 13 range. They were horrible.
And the fact that he put in the E85
And now it
went
runs,
away,
that tells me it's an alcohol content
Yeah.
issue. The computer, if you put the scanner on it, and if your scanner's capable of reading all those data PIDs, you're going to scan down deep into the data, and it's going to say alcohol content or AC, and it'll say, if it says AC percent, there's one for air conditioning. It can get confusing because one will say, we usually say compressor, COMP, but if you see alcohol content or CONT on there and it says like 45 or something, then that's an indication we got too much alcohol going on. You got a drunk truck.
The scanner I have, it does have that ability. So I did that initially, I think even before I called you the first time, and it, on 87, it does say 9.8% of ethanol. And I put in the E85, I rechecked, and it was about 59%.
That's about right.
And when I went back to 85, I went back to 87 a few days ago. The long crank came back, and it does go back to 8.9%. So, and that was the other thing. The reason I replaced the map sensor is because that alcohol content, I think, is maybe built into that. But yeah, the computer does seem to be reading the correct alcohol content.
It may be reading it. It doesn't sound like it's adjusting for it, though.
Yeah.
If you look at the injector pulse width at idle with running E85 versus running E10, see if it changes. If it's the same with the E85 as it is with 10, it's trying to dump too much fuel in there. And make sure you're looking at it when the temperature is the same. So if the engine's at, cold startup and it's 60 degrees, try it the other way as well. But if you see that pulse width is dumping a lot of extra fuel in, even with the 10 versus the 55 to 65 with the 85%, then it's telling me we might just have to reflash it. Just do a computer reflash on it to update it, because computers are fickle things. They can do all sorts of odd stuff.
So last thing, so what would the pulse width, what would be expected on the E10 and the E85?
I don't know what that's going to be on there, because all vehicles are going to be different depending on the engine size and temperature and all that. So, but what you'll want to do is compare them at all things equal. Outside air temperature the same, coolant temperature the same, and then look at those two readings at idle. So same RPM, same load and everything. And so our test would be in park at idle. Like we would do it when the engine's warm, because we know that in the morning it's going to be different temperature every morning. But if we let it sit there and idle till the fans come on, we're probably at 200 degrees, and it's just going to sit right there. So that is when we would take that reading with each fuel. So it'll take a couple different days to do it, or a few.
I was intrigued listening to that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
caught myself just staring at Russ listening to that, and also for Jesse, he's living this thing, and it sounds like he's pretty in depth in this too.
Right.
He's gotten himself off in the weeds there a little bit, and it's just a frustrating issue, and it's never not started. Correct?
Right. The long crank, it never doesn't start. It'll start every time. It's just whether it's going to take 1 second or 7 seconds.
Yeah, I've had trucks that different fuels would get used, and they would react differently when on startup because of the fuels. I mean, when I ran the higher alcohol content, I don't think the sensor adjusted well enough, and it would just be an extra second or so crank. I could tell it. But this is, when you're talking 7 seconds, that's a lot more extreme.
They're long. When they get out of whack, it's a very long crank.
Yeah.
Jesse, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Robert. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Robert, what can we do for you?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think I've got two problems now. Basically, I've got this 1983 300 Turbo Diesel Mercedes.
Yeah, that's
the
one problem.
First problem. You beat me to it.
Oh, we jumped on it there.
It's only 170,000. The engine, the
There's
last
the
time I
second
had ran
problem.
was running great. Well, the initial problem started, the car sits for 6 months during the winter time outside. And last spring I went to start it, and normally it would start fine. However, the ignition key, when I turn it on, the yellow glow plug light does not come on. And I also heard an unusual buzzing under the dash. My brother-in-law who's a mechanic, retired mechanic, says, I think it's the connections underneath your hood are just not grounding well. That's my first problem. What do you guys think? Could it be the glow plug fuse or just bad ground?
No, it may be that the glow plug relay is failing. I'm not sure where it is on there, but if you hear a buzzing and you've got a glow plug light that's not working anymore, it tells me that maybe the relay is trying to energize, but it's not, and it's just clicking. I would find that buzzing under the dash. If it's a glow plug relay, I would replace it if it's available, or at least test it by using you use a multimeter, a voltmeter, and test it. Do we have power and ground going into the two wires that activate the relay to lock it down and engage it? If we don't, if we've only got 3 volts there, let's find out which side we're losing it on. Is it the power coming in? If I'm hooked to ground of the battery and I'm testing the power side, is it 3 volts or is it 12 volts? If it's 12 volts, go to the ground side and go from that ground side there to the ground of the battery. And if it's more than a half a volt showing up there, then I've got a ground loss, and that needs to be repaired. And that, that could be anything controlling that. But those glow plug controllers on that, if that fails, it's going to just buzz and not give you that light. Definitely have to have a good glow plug system on that in order to crank it.
Because in this case, if the light's not coming on, that means the circuit's not being energized. So it doesn't even get to the fact about a glow plug timer or anything like that.
Right.
Because it's not even getting energized.
Well, if the timer on that, I thought the timer...
It's not all integrated in one unit, is it?
Well, no, it's a temperature sensing. It plugs in and then it sends the power to the relay, if I remember right on that. I don't think it grounds it. I think it sends power on that one. It's been a long time since I worked on a 300 mechanical diesel injection. Yeah. I would definitely check that out.
One other thing, I'm assuming since I couldn't, last year just got away from me, so now it's been sitting 2 years. I'm almost certain that then the diesel fuel would all have to be drained out. Fresh diesel put in before even...
Here's the thing. You let those things sit too long and that diesel fuel turns to like a glue, and the pumps, those mechanical pumps will fail, and you got to take them apart and rebuild them. Have you had it running?
No, it hasn't been running now for be almost 2 years.
Okay. Well, I would find the glow plug, the relay in that, and jump across it. Not too long. You don't want to burn those glow plugs out because they won't run forever. Probably 3 or 4 seconds, and then crank it and see if you can get it to start. If it starts and runs smoothly, then you're probably fine with that fuel, but you're going to need to drive it until that fuel is way low and then put new fuel in it. You've got to use like the Justice Brothers fuel system additive for that diesel. It's a cleaner and additive, or something. You must. It's got to be in there to keep that thing from gumming up. Our shop truck didn't run for a couple years.
Would you start with that? Would you put
up.
that in before once it was running? Would you put that
in? As soon as I
in?
get it started, yeah. Because I mean, otherwise it'd be a waste if you got to drain the tank anyway. Right. So just start it up, make sure it's going, and then do it. But you can engage glow plugs manually and run them for 3 or 4 seconds. It's not going to hurt it. And if it doesn't crank right away, if it tries and then dies, try another 3 or 4 seconds and then try it again until it fires up and runs.
Robert, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Brittany. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Brittany, what can we do for you?
Hi. So I have a 2017 Ford Expedition with an EcoBoost, and I really stupidly had set that My Key setting on it when I first got it, not knowing what it was. And about a month ago, my husband was looking through the manual, and he said that there was instructions on how to get it off by pressing this OK button. And we tried that multiple times, and ever since then, I've been having issues. It's like the transmission is flipping gears. It happens randomly. It happened really bad last night when I was on my way home, and I was going about 60 miles an hour, and all of a sudden it jolts, and then it starts kind of doing that a little bit more, and then it stops, and then it drives fine.
Is this call a rather desperate plea to continue a conversation with your husband that he broke the vehicle?
It's a good question.
Yes.
I could sense that. I mean, because I don't know that his efforts to straighten out the automated key fob function should have had anything to do with the transmission.
That was too much the focus of the beginning. It tipped you off.
It did. I was my feelers went up on this a little bit.
No. It was. I have been dealing with that my key for probably 2 years now, and he's like, "Oh, I think I found how to do it." And he told me, he goes, "Well, you should call the Under the Hood show because I don't know if that would have anything to do with this or not."
And he's telling you to call to get an alibi,
right?
There's a lot going on here.
Yes,
this is a big.
Oh, sorry to blow your cover.
Well, and I didn't know because like when I was pressing the O key, it never did bring up the option to turn the my key off. So that's still running, and I don't know when I was holding that my key button.
You can't turn it off unless you have
flashing differently.
the right key. Try it with the other key and get the other key out of the car because it'll only work. It's set. It's made to lock. You're not supposed to be able to do it. So if you set that my key,
what's my key?
Well, it does different things. Where for I don't use it, but when I've had it when I'm programming cars, I can have the ability to shut it off so it cannot be used, or lets it be used, and it shuts off certain functions of the car. It has nothing to do with the transmission shifting and acting like where it could do that. So that's not connected. But you can limit certain things in the vehicle to turn on and off. I mean,
so it's like a programmable valet,
kind of something like yes. I mean, and there's people who are like, well, I know all about it. It's like, well, good for you. There's an owner's manual that.
Brittany, why did you like my key or why did you not like my key?
I think she accidentally activated it.
So I accidentally activated when I was like looking through when I first got it. I'm like, oh, I don't even know what this is, and it like so I can't listen to like TikTok on my like satellite radio.
Yep.
My volume can only go so high.
Right. Seatbelt has to be on in order to listen to the radio, right?
Yes.
Yep. So I mean, it's those kind of functions. So.
And so, in the manual to turn it off, it said that all I was supposed to do is I was supposed to have the key that I activated it with, and that's what I had. I only have the one key, and it said if you go to the my key status, you're supposed to press and hold OK until it pops up to turn it off.
But you have to have the right key.
So when I was pressing and holding, and apparently I don't have the right key.
Yeah, swap with the other key.
When I was pressing and holding it, I don't have the other key.
Uh-oh.
I only have the one. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you must have had another one when this was activated because it activates to that key.
No.
Oh, boy. That's
weird.
So this is the only key you've ever had?
It is very weird. Yeah.
Okay, well, there's two things going on here. To fix that, you're going to have to you got to get another key because you're going to have to program it. And to program another key, it requires two working Ford OEM keys, not an aftermarket clone one you get like at the hardware store. It has to be a Ford key, so they're completely different. You'll need two of them in order to reprogram the system, and then you'll be fine. You can turn it off. They can shut the my key off when they're doing it. But the other reason is if you have only one key and you lose it, you're in trouble. You have no way to run this vehicle, and it's going to cost you so much more than getting another key now. So if you were to take this like into the Ford dealership, you could say, I need a spare key. And they would say, okay. And they'll get you another key and they'll program it. And what
It'll be expensive, right?
Well, probably a couple $100. Yeah. But I would go in and say,
yeah, I was going to say, I think we had,
you check that. Yeah, I'd say, or even maybe a locksmith, but I'd say, hey, I need a key programmed. And hey, while you're setting up that other key, can you just turn that my key off? Because it's right in the menu. There should not be an extra charge for it because when they program the key, they're going on the line and it says, it asks you, my key, yes, my key, no. Hello. So it asks you those things.
One of the settings of my key is not to have your transmission disrupt.
That's what I was wondering if that was
right. Well, and it was
not
just weird because when I was holding that my key or when I was holding that OK button, my the the gears were lighting, like they were lighting up, and they started flashing all over, and like my rear view mirror camera kept popping up. I was always in park.
Something's wrong there.
And that is when it started. Yeah, it's so weird.
Oh boy.
Maybe I'm not going to rule out the fact that you had some sort of a weird computer network issue as it was trying to do this.
It may need a reprogram.
I mean, we were making fun of the situation,
right? But that is maybe just another.
Yeah, I think you got to get some. I don't know, maybe an exorcism.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd start with that and then
No.
bring it in. Brittany, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Yeah, that is a weird. None of that seems normal.
I have the producer get your phone number. I have a thought. I'm going to reach out to you.
All right. I'll put her on hold. I'll just do this right now, and we'll do that. We'll take a break. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our YouTube channel, and if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at UnderTheHoodShow.com, you could win a hoodie.
I think they're forgetting to subscribe.
Yes, I think so.
Thousands of people watched our channel last week, returned, and then they didn't subscribe.
We need to make a bigger commitment.
We see that on YouTube all the time, right? Make sure you're subscribed. You're returning and not subscribing. Why? We don't have to. That's why we're not subscribing. Please, would you please?
I don't want to put my name on another list.
They don't care. It's YouTube.
I like to subscribe and then ask YouTube to not show me that content ever again.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But subscribe. We don't care. Anyways, no, I don't. Do whatever you want. But thank you for watching and listening. Jonathan Provis, congratulations. You've won a hoodie from our friends over at UTI, Universal Technical Institute. And we want to let you know, Berkeley One Classics is celebrating 50 years. Your key to collector car insurance.
866-594-4150. Let's go to New Hampshire and talk to Ethan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Ethan, what can we do for you?
First off, can you guys hear me? I've had trouble with my headset before.
I think you're good. Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. I did some work for somebody and took a 4L80E transmission as payment because my 4L60E and my Silverado is getting a little bit weak. I know I need to get the flywheel and everything, extended line, and a couple of wires need to be repinned and the new bracket. Is there anything that you would point out to me before I get started with this project?
Your bigger problem is going to be the output shaft of your transmission will have different splinage than the one that where your mating of the transfer case is going to have a different splinage, I believe.
Well, it was a 4-wheel drive or a 2-wheel drive. They use different transfer cases.
Both vehicles 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, because the 4L80 has a coarse spline with fewer splines, I believe. Maybe I said that wrong, but
That's the older one. I know they are different. That's all.
Well, the 4L80 and the 4 goes back to the old days of the 400 versus the 350.
Those were a heavy spline versus.
Yeah. So I believe, unless I'm jumping on this way too fast, I think it's a different output shaft because when people have had to change those for us, they have to sometimes go in and do a custom build to put the different output shaft in it.
Yeah, they sell shafts to go. So
or they'll buy an adapter for the transfer case side to be able to make that work.
I mean, we put hundreds of transmissions in the GM trucks with both 4L80s and 4L60s. We never look at them that close to measure that output shaft, but they are different. But they're all using a fine spline now, but a bigger size.
Yeah, I said that wrong with the spline because that's what you
used to always be. They used to, yeah. You could used to tell them apart by the number of teeth they had on there, like 16 versus 32 type thing, you know.
And the physical body of that transmission is larger.
Yeah.
So you end up with a different, kind of a mounting point for the cross member. I believe that's going to be off by a little bit.
But the 2-wheel drives, we used to repin those on our factory performance stuff, and we put a 4L80 2-wheel drive behind a 4L60
used to be.
We would just repin the valve body so it would shift differently, and it worked.
Does that help you out there, Ethan?
Yeah, just one quick last question. If I get the transfer case with the 4L80, will that work for just bolting everything up? I know I need the new cross member.
Cross
those are easy to
member,
order. A ton of people make them.
drive shafts. Yeah, but as far as the unit, if they're both electric shifts, they should both have the same wiring available to you. You might have to do some pin changes, but the shift motor should do your shift like you need to, because they're, as long as they're both the same type of transfer case, where you've got like a
Auto track versus
NP8 where it's got a low 4, a high 4, a 2 high, and an auto or just a 2 high. As long as they both have that same system to them, then you should be able to make that work. But we see people do that kind of stuff all the time, and it's a little challenging, but a little rewarding, when you get it done and make it work.
And I'll go back, Ethan. Your headset worked, but it is a little bit weird. It sounds weird and has some background. So I get a new headset too. Because he said he wanted to make sure it was working.
Yeah.
It's working, but it's weird. It's not. You're not doing anybody any favors calling them with that headset on. 866-594-4150. Thanks, Ethan. Let's talk to Darren in Mississippi. Darren, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you. Welcome to the Under the Hood show.
Thank you. I got a 2020 Ford F250 with the 6.7 and the 10-speed transmission in it. Driving down the road towing a camper, and all of a sudden it shuddered. The tool light came on the dash, and I only had 8th and 9th gear and first gear. Get it home, park the trailer, hop in it the next day, everything's working as normal, except it kind of slips or shudders a little bit in between gears. But I have all my gears, and there are no lights on the dash. Any idea?
Not one that you're going to like. It's if that light went back off, so the codes have gone away, and it's driving with no check engine light, something failed more than likely inside of that transmission. And it may have been a temporary failure, that it's still there, but it's something that caused the temporary shifting problem. But now you're getting a little bit of it because it's delayed, harsh. So it might be sensor related, where it can be scanned, find out what it is, replace that part, and it's working. For you to lose so many gears at once and then have them come back tells me it's probably not a major issue where all the clutches need to be replaced. It needs a rebuild, something like that. It tells me that you probably have a sensor in the transmission that has failed, and it put it into a safe mode to try to protect it and get you where you're going without damaging the transmission.
These new ones
Pressure
in those
solenoid.
trucks are very good about that, is being able to save itself as far as the transmission goes. You should check with the local transmission shop in your area that is an independent transmission shop.
Yeah.
And ask them. They've probably seen some of these, because now you're getting to the point where it's just getting out of warranty, but it's also the same transmission they used for, I think, what's that, 2 years previous probably? And
I believe so.
And so they're starting to have their experiences with it in the field, and that gets outside of the warranty bubble, which sometimes can give you different answers.
Sure.
So you might just check on that. See if you've got a big independent transmission shop somewhere that works on these, and ask if they've seen this pop up before. Because I think Russ is right. It could be a very inexpensive repair in theory, compared to the worst of the worst.
Yes, of course. All right. Well, I guess that's the route I will take.
Darren, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Oklahoma and talk to Raiden. You're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I've got a 1999 Dodge SLT Laramie with the 5.9 Cummins, 4-wheel drive, 5-speed standard shift. And I'm not very good at explaining what it does, but when I started up, it press the accelerator at all, it's real jerky and bucks real hard and then cuts out. It seems like it's got a lot more power when it's doing this. I can take off in third gear and it wants to run away. But when I let the pickup get warmed up, turn the key off, then turn it back on, it may do it again, and then it may straighten up and drive completely normal. But it never drives completely normal unless it's warm, been running for a long amount of time or warmed up, whichever the one.
Every time it does this.
It every time, unless I start it,
Sure.
let it run for 45 minutes, shut it off, turn it back on, being 90% of the time it runs right, or I have to do that a couple more times.
There's so many things that could be going on with that diesel in there.
It's I've been around equipment. I've fulfilled parts mechanics my whole life. It's not mechanical.
Oh, we just lost you there.
It's not mechanical.
We lost him. Yeah, he's gone.
What do you think you was starting to say? It's not
It could be anything.
mechanical.
I'm just wondering, it could be something going on in that pump, but because there's things going on in that pump. It could be that it needs to be fully warm. You shut it off, restart it, you're fine. I've seen some weird stuff happen with those pumps. I mean, it could also be
Fuel cavitation because of a
Yeah,
problem in
and
the line system.
you got the computer bolted right to the side of that engine on that. The heat could affect that, something thermally. I mean, I guess to start diagnosing that, we're going to plug a scanner into it and read it and see what the readings look like.
And that it does it every time is good for him, right?
That is good that you have something that does it. You gotta see it happen.
Well, and the 99 has got a much simpler system than if it was a 2019.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can look under the hood and have some optimism when you look under the hood of a 2000 or under
Raiden's
a
back.
99.
Finish your we lost you at
something.
Are you there?
It's not
Yeah, I lost you guys. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But yeah, that's I got basically most of it out. I don't believe it's mechanical or fuel. It's got some kind of electrical issue, unless you guys have another idea.
Well, we're thinking it could be something fuel related because if you got a pump issue where it has to be completely warm in order for it to work, that could be what's going on. Computer bolted to the side of the block. I've had to replace a number of those over the years where they acted up. So what we would do.
I've replaced the computer on the side of the block.
Okay.
The fuel pump's got plenty of pressure, no matter what it's acting like.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not the fuel pump, but sure seems to.
And you've checked pressure coming in and out of the pump at the injectors?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
To the pump and from the pump, yeah.
if you've got the correct pressure at the injectors, a diesel should never quit. You're dumping fuel into it, it'll never quit. So
Right away, it doesn't quit it. It cuts out real hard,
and it doesn't lose
Like it
any
over
pressure.
revs with the it over revs with the accelerator and then kind of falls down at a certain point.
I wonder if the throttle is the problem. There's
The APPS sensor, because
there's a sensor right next to the pump there that the cable hooks to. And if that is bad, it'll do all sorts of weird stuff because that's the input to make that pump drive, and you'd have pressure, but it would change how much pressure is going. It's going to change your fuel flow rate. I can't remember, what do they call that thing? It's a throttle. It's like a throttle position sensor, but it's the cable hooks to it right on the side of the engine there, and that we have a lot of issues with those. As they get old.
If this were in your shop, the fact that it does it every time in the morning, every time
It'd be
cold,
easier to find, yeah.
right? So
Not necessarily 100% easy, but it would be easier than if it doesn't.
was intermittent or
Yeah.
didn't work all the time, didn't happen
Yeah,
all
those
the time.
we don't even work on.
Raiden, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Sorry we lost you there, and I think we got back to you, though, on all the stuff that you guys talked about there, though. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Quickly, I got a message this morning on our news feed from Nissan. Did you see the Nissan do not drive warning.
No.
No.
If
Tell
you're
us
driving
more.
a 2002 to 2006 Nissan, the company has issued a do not drive warning for 2002 to 2006 Sentras, 2002 to 2004 Pathfinders, and 2002 and 2003 Infiniti QX4s because of the airbags. The Takata airbags could explode due to propellant degradation occurring after long-term exposure to high absolute humidity, high temperatures, and high temperature cycling. So if you have one of those vehicles, and I'm sure they're doing their best to contact people, but if you have one of those vehicles, they have issued a do not drive warning.
That is still on the road with less than 200,000 miles and is oh my gosh.
It's What?
You know, is it just me, or does it seem like the only airbag company that anybody can use is the T word one?
Yeah, they must have.
I can't recall. Have we ever heard of another name for a company that has been used in a car that we associate with a problem? I'm sure there's got to be more companies than just the one. Not that many, because most of ours say that. But really, people, when are they going to put their foot down and say, with the government sticks their feet, nose into like everything with automotive emissions and all that, right? Why, when there is something that has the potential to kill people, and in fact has killed at least some, why has there been no regulation put out that said, people, stop putting these things in your vehicles and find another company?
Nobody else
make them yourself.
Else dares make them, I don't think.
I'll tell you why. I think it's probably because they could do that, but then nobody would have cars, and then nobody would elect anybody. And I don't mean that it's a political thing. What I mean is, it's in so many cars. What do you do besides try and piecemeal?
No, I mean, why have they not said you need to stop using Takata and use a reliable source? Or do they say that, well, we've
fixed it now,
we've built 3 billion airbags, and it's only a tiny percent that fail. So overall, I mean, look, you've got more bathroom scales that have killed people because they're too slippery than airbags.
But
so,
even if
I don't know,
even if
what is
they've if they never used Takata since this problem started.
Oh, you got 2003.
Exactly. So I think that's the issue, that it's so ubiquitous. There's no way around it happening.
Yeah, and they're putting this warning out now is just probably to say we better do this.
Yeah.
So, is there more to that
out.
story, Chris? Does it say if you stop driving it, what are you supposed to do? Do they have parts available or no?
Doesn't say that. It does say that if owners have a vehicle that's part of the open recall, they can have them repaired for free at dealerships. Nissan and Infiniti are offering free towing, mobile repair, and loaner vehicles in some instances.
Mobile, but are the parts available? We
thing.
have seen so many. You've got one that's still active,
and it's my third.
And there's
set.
no parts available.
Right. Yeah.
But yours isn't a stop driving order. It just says, well, it could be dangerous. So it's up to you, Chris.
Have you developed any new rattles every time they put the airbags in?
No, I don't think so. I think it's okay. Don't ask. I'm just pretending it's okay. Don't ask me any questions.
Crazy.
Let's talk to Wade. You're on the Under the Hood show. Wade, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
I got a Silverado 2014 with that. I know they're famous for the oil pressure sensors. It flexes quite a bit. It's got about 115 on it now, and I've been putting oil in it lately, and I do got an oil leak. I don't know if that oil pressure sensor can leak or not.
Do you know if this is, it matters a little bit, if this is the new generation with the LT1 style motor, or if it's the 14 Classic?
It's an LTV model, but I don't know. I think it's got the 5.3 in it.
Oil pressure, it's an old one with the 5.3.
Yeah, because they made the Classic body style in 14, which still had the previous generation LS engine in it. And then in 14, new generation, they went to the LT series of LS engine, which was the next generation, with the high pressure fuel injectors that were integrated right into the heads, versus the old system where they had a fuel rail on them yet.
They got a whole different oil pressure sending
Yeah.
unit on it, but still, oil changes, quality oil, all that kind of stuff still can cause these sensors to fail. We just don't have them fail near as often as the old ones did.
The light don't come on, but the oil pressure flexes quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's pretty normal on them for them to move around, especially when they're cold. They're going to switch and they're going to be different than they are when they're hot.
Or is this jumping as you're going down the road once it's warmed up?
Yeah, once it's warmed up.
So it'll jump between 20 and 60, or does it jump between, what do you got going on?
Right around in there. It stays right in the middle, right on 40 when I first go, and then I get down the road. I can smell the oil on the exhaust, so I got an oil leak somewhere, but I don't know if they're famous for.
That's under the back of the intake. So if it is leaking oil, then it's probably also leaking oil into the harness as well on the top. But we see that a lot, and that can cause it to get all goofy. That's why we replace a lot of harness ends on these vehicles when we're replacing an oil pressure sending unit. We're replacing the harness pigtail as well.
That's a stinker to get at. I know that.
Yeah,
You have to on the back of them.
But when you look at the intake on those, I know that at the shop I've seen, like, even our young technician Matt, him and his dad have created some tools to get at knock sensors and certain things without having to remove everything. But
pipe cleaner? Is it
no? But
made
just
with pipe cleaner?
sometimes you look at them and if they don't have the tool, the intake is intimidating, but it does come off quite easy, to get at this stuff. And usually it's O-rings, that when it goes back together. And so we'll see people that are just intimidated by it, but you can pop the intake off and get at a lot of this stuff a lot easier if you need to.
Does that help you out there, Wade?
When you first look at it, it looks like, this is going to take me a couple days.
No, if you like I said, we thanks for calling the show here, but if you get on YouTube and you look, you'll see a number of videos, I'm sure, that would show you removing that intake or taking that sending unit out. You can see some things, let alone us telling you, but sometimes physically seeing it, you can say, that doesn't look so bad.
When you talk about, like, here, he's in a crossover year or a changeover year where there's a new style and an old style. Is that when you ask that question, it always seems like, wow, why did they do that? Is it a big deal or no? It's just the next one. They just did it halfway through.
On trucks, they did it. GM did it on trucks a lot. You see it on Ram has continued to do it. They kept a classic version and a new version for fleets and rentals and, lots of different things, and just another more affordable, very profitable vehicle for them to keep out on the road.
Have you seen yet? From what I hear, I've heard that we're going to have a redesign for 25. Do you know about that yet?
I know the redesign
on the Silverado and
Tahoe
Suburban
redesigns are just coming out, so that means that the
have you seen one yet?
No,
because I've heard, and they got all the speculation on YouTube and things. They're like, well, is it coming? What does it look like? But there's been no spy photos or anything. But there's no continuation of in 25 of 24s we're seeing. We're not seeing like wait for the next of the 24s. So, and it's about time for it.
Yeah, those trucks are so profitable for them. Sometimes they just run them out longer because they're doing that transition late in the year, and they're just going to get every bang for the buck they can out of it.
Yeah. Wade, thanks very much for the call. All right, that's going to do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. You can find us online at underthehoodshow.com. And don't forget, you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. We'd love it. And if you do, hit like and hit subscribe. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Under the Hood Show. All right, this is the after show. Let's get to it. Where were you? You were all around. What was the reason for your trip?
The reason for the trip is that every year the president of our trade association, as a honor for serving for 5 volunteer years in our trade association, gets to pick a destination to do a trip.
Okay.
And because you're doing all this work all along, and so Shan Latham, who's from Coco Auto
Wait a
Salvage.
second. Pause. Chris, start picking now.
Yeah.
Okay, resume.
Yeah. So Shan Latham from Coco Auto Salvage in Florida, she had wanted to go and get into the Mediterranean, the Aegean Sea, and see some of those ports of calls. And so she likes doing cruises. And so her request was to do this. So we went to Barcelona, Spain, and we toured salvage facilities there and saw two completely different business models of how people operate in Spain.
That was the question I have that question. I emailed myself that question about the difference between salvage operations in Europe versus here.
I'd like to see them because I've only seen them like on TV.
The things that we saw two very wonderfully clean operations, very nice operations. Both of them didn't have a lot of wrecked cars. They were dealing more with a little bit older cars with things they would buy from shops that they knew and the public, and high volumes. And so we saw that there was a lot of that was the thing that caught my eye right away. There wasn't a lot of heavy wrecks and that kind of stuff. And then of course the cars are all so much smaller. I mean, you're working on things that you look like they could pick them up and put them on their hoist by hand.
Yeah.
Everything's so much smaller. In Spain, we were seeing a combination of right-hand drive, left-hand drive, but most everything was normal left-hand drive. We saw most of our right-hand drive stuff when we were in Malta, because that used to be a British island. And
we have a listener in Malta.
Yeah. Do we?
Yeah. Frequent caller. Used to be. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we went the one operation, he was really heavy in the recycling side of it, but not so much like a shredder. He would dissect the vehicles to export. So he would have the cutout engine, and he had a market to go to Africa somewhere with that. He would have the front clip he would cut off and containerize, and it would go to another country, and then they would dismantle it from there. He had people that sold on eBay that bought from him in wholesale, and then they did the eBay work.
Okay.
His business went so far as I posted some of this on our Facebook page. I think I don't know if I did it under the hood show or not.
I don't think
have to look. I did.
I'm not sure.
But they got so far as that they would take the bumper covers and shred into plastic bites to be able to get because there is a plastic market there in Europe that doesn't exist here in the United States. They had that was something different going on. He actually had a machine that would strip the copper wire to clean it to get it down to the copper and to be able to get that copper residue and the copper for a more of a product. Lots of wheel and tire business going overseas. I say overseas, but exporting out of their area.
Right.
So that was one business model. And then the other business model was more of a smaller operation where they were more of a boutique, and they were dissecting the cars, inventorying the parts, taking pictures in photo booths. And they didn't have a lot of cars in the field, but the cars were up on cantilever racking, 3-4 high. And then they would, if they needed to get something off the car, they would go with their lift and bring it down, get something off the car, put it back up, just like, at a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a neat system, but they don't have any interchange like we do.
Okay.
So I've known this model. It's the same thing in Europe for a long time, but there isn't a company that really makes an interchange. So they have to take the part off. They hold the part in their hand, and then they look at it, check it out, and then they find the part numbers, and then they categorize it in a catalog with the correct part numbers that they see on the part, the year, make, model, and that's how you begin your searching. You're looking for a exact match instead of knowing that a 1277 6432 fits a 1277 6438.
Right.
You don't know that unless you've learned that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really pigeonholes into selling that exact part. And that's what the one gentleman told me that had the recycling heavy operation was that the cars have gotten to be so unique on the parts they put into them, it makes it very hard for them to get any volume.
Sure.
With the uniqueness of each part.
Right.
He said I could have cars with 7 different wheels on them. And we have that now, but we have interchange that helps us break that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting to watch the model of what they're doing now and what might be to come after that.
So is it just, it's what you guys did before?
It was.
Okay.
And the vehicles were older. They were 8 to 15 years old.
Okay.
I'm at the one place I took a picture of a 2013 Chevy Cruze, which was kind of a premium vehicle, or like a Mazda CX-9 that was older, that they were taking apart. It was just interesting to see the make model mix as you walk through there too of what they were working with. But what's on the road is small. It's
Mm-hmm.
I did not see any full size pickup trucks anywhere.
Sure.
None. There was no SUVs unless it was by a government office. Big SUVs.
Mm-hmm.
None.
Interesting.
And that was throughout most all of our travels. That was the thing that probably was interesting to me, just how much bigger our vehicle fleet is physically, period. Than
Everything
theirs.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
The biggest truck you saw was Toyota Tacomas, older Toyotas with diesels in them, older Nissans. The truck market is just not what it is here. But what you do see is, just because we're in tourist areas, a ton of these mid-size, smaller Mercedes vans, not like anything we have here. It's more like a fat or a tall Caravan, to put it into some perspective, or like a shrunken Freightliner.
I've seen those on TV.
I can't remember what the numbers were on the back of them because I wrote in a few of them, but just they're everywhere because they're moving so many people around.
Sure.
Because of the tourism business, because we were in those kind of places after that. So that was really interesting to see.
You got to you raced at Monaco.
We did.
Yeah.
We had a Monaco experience. The week before the Grand Prix, we got to go around the track, and we also got detained by Monaco police in the. I was riding in an electric Citroen that was a clone to an older Citroen from the '60s. Can't remember the model number, like a 310 maybe or something like that. But the guy we were with was just a fun guy. He was high strung like I am, and talked fast and tried to do his best English. And he was more French and wanted to live in Italy. And he was just an interesting character. But he was taking us all around the Nice area, Monaco. So I said, "Can we go on the track?" He's like, "Yeah, I think so." And there was a lot of people doing it. We were driving the route the track would be, going around, the where all the yachts are at and everything. Oh, the money there are just ridiculous. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But
I've heard people say, especially since I watched stuff about it in the last week, that like even in your vehicle, it's tight and tiny. Like
you couldn't.
You can hardly believe in
hard to believe that they're racing and not just following each other.
Right.
And but anyway, we were pulling in, and he was going to make another turn onto the track, kind of a thing. When it got down to it, is that he did not, and I just found this hilarious because my dad got stopped one time, and he helped make a new law for single license plates on a vehicle just on the rear for specialty cars, but he had no front license plate.
Okay.
And because he was in Monaco, it's a separate sovereign country, and their rule is completely different from where he comes from.
Right.
In Villafrance. And so, yeah, we got held up for probably a half hour. Other police came.
Oh.
They checked our passports, and there's like, "Oh, don't worry. It's okay. We just have to check all this." But they went through the paces, and so we were detained for a little bit there. That was an experience. I turned around in the back seat as he was talking to our guy, and I took a picture of the cop. He says, "No picture." I said, "Okay, I got the picture."
Yeah.
But he was like,
"You're famous for that in Europe."
Yeah, but it was so that was kind of a neat little.
It's not the Sistine Chapel this time.
No, he said we'll get you back. I said, "Oh, don't hold us up. We got to get back to our ship." No, you're okay. So they let him go, and he has to, if he's going to go into Monaco again, he needs to get a front license plate.
Okay.
So that was kind of interesting. So yes, we did. Long story from yes, we went around the track.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. That was really neat. But we had a lot of neat experience because then after that, it became a pleasure cruise with 47 people, and we were on a big Royal Caribbean ship, and we were on at sea for 11 days, stopping at different places from Italy. Well, we started in Spain, and then we went to France and Italy for 2 stops, and then Turkey, Greece. Oh, I missed some, and Malta, and so
sounds awful.
It was terrible. No, yeah. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and make it sound. It was incredible.
Yeah.
My first cruise experience. That was one of the reasons my wife and I we don't have to do this, but we wanted to, and it was an opportunity to get it done. And so we had a cruise experience now, and it was a lot of good quality time spent together for her and I, because usually I'm getting shared with everybody.
Sure.
And our best quality time is usually going out like for dinner.
Right.
But it was good to just be able to spend some time together. And I disconnected, which I normally don't do, but I was quite disconnected.
Yeah, you were. I was actually very happy that like when we were sending texts back and forth, you would
a
zing.
lot of times I couldn't see them. I mean,
Yeah.
we did have an internet package on the ship, but it was horrible.
Sure.
I had to go stand by the bathroom door to get closer to the hallway to get a signal that was worth
Right.
Pahoot.
Yeah.
And then we're an Apple user, and so a lot of people I communicated with Samsung stuff like wasn't working. Yeah. So it's just it was all kind of hokey.
So does that mean you get to pick the trip on your outgoing?
I do.
What, in 4 years?
Well,
so I said
2 years.
Start thinking, Chris, and put it in his ears.
I'll be the president in this fall. We'll have a new president, Eric Wilbert from Wilbert's Auto Parts in New York. And then the following year, I'll be the president. So I'm already into this a little bit. But then you also have a year as past president.
Sure.
So Shan is now the past president.
Okay.
So it's a 5-year window.
Now, my question, and don't say anything. Mm-hmm. What do you have? Did you think about where your trip is going to be when you
We talked about it a fair amount, and we don't have nothing definitive.
Okay.
Nothing definitive yet.
Are you taking suggestions?
South Pole. You're invited, Chris. The South Pole.
Yeah, I'll take a suggestion.
Banff.
Where?
Banff, Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
You go anywhere and you'd go there. That's a vacation. That's like a week vacation, maybe.
Yeah.
4 or 5 days.
Banff, Canada.
Banff Springs National Park. It's
Vamp or Banff?
Banff. B-A-N-F-F.
Yeah, it's a cool place. It's beautiful and everything. It's in the mountains, but
this is why I didn't want.
And there's stuff to do there, but
see, this is why. This is right there.
He just went to like 7 places.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll find out. We'll figure that out.
Did you come up with some places? Did you come up with a handful?
Oh, we've talked about all kinds of crazy places, but
you don't have to. Yeah. Don't say any. Russ will jump on you.
Yeah. No, I'm including Sherman.
Was it? Right. You know what?
Sherman,
you guys should
South
just come
Dakota.
over.
Everybody come to us.
Yeah.
And
let's go to Laverne.
We'll get the go-karts going in here.
We'll go on a snowmobile ride. We'll stop at Mike's place.
Yeah. Exactly. Everybody, this is the Sportsman's. All right.
Yeah.
Make sure you come in winter.
Yeah.
And not at Christmas. It's too busy, right?
Right.
A little bit of a commercial, but I tell you, one of the things that made this trip really unique for us was I got advice given to me very shortly, like a month before, from my friend Pat Huser, that is one of the owners at Pam's Auto in St. Cloud. They're friendly competitors of ours. They've got a great business up there. But Pat and his partner Mike, that started the business, they've traveled a fair amount in the last 5 years, and they clued me in on Airbnb experiences, which I did not know existed.
We talked about that often.
And also, Viator, as they say it over there, I thought it was Viator, is the personal side of planning trips from TripAdvisor. Who I didn't know that's who owned it. I just learned all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that is changing travel. I can see how it is, because at each one of these ports, we had arranged a unique experience with somebody private. Because the shore excursions, by the time I looked into it, imagine this, I procrastinated and they were all sold out.
Weird.
And it turned out being a blessing in disguise. And as an example, on when we were in Capri, was where this port was, we met and had a transportation company pick us up and bring us up into the mountain area. And Enzo, great guy.
Ferrari?
It was not Enzo Ferrari, but Enzo took us on a hike that was called the Path of the Gods. And I had signed up for the High Path of the Gods, which overlooks the Amalfi Coast. And he said, we got some fog. He goes, I don't know if it's worth climbing the high path. He said, but Antonio, the goat farmer, is going to have his little goat farm open today. He goes, and I think you would enjoy that experience.
What country was that in?
We were in Italy.
Okay.
Does he know that you often vacation with goats?
But so anyway, we took this hike, and it was a good hike because we wanted a good hike. We wanted a decent hike. And so we hiked for quite a while, and we come back around the mountainside, and there's goats walking on the mountains, and all of a sudden we come to this adobe big hut. I'm going to call it adobe, but it's like old school,
right,
into the mountainside. And here's Antonio to meet us. He doesn't know any English, but he knows the guide. And we sit down on straw bales with a rickety wooden table, and he brings out fresh goat cheese with some fresh tomatoes, and had homemade wine that he made from his own grapes on the hillside. And there was probably 10 other people that were around. And eventually we were playing regional music. The one guy started with a tambourine, and then we got these knocker tools that we'd knock back and forth on the beat. And we sat there for 2 hours with Antonio at the goat farm. And then we had to hike back another mile and a half yet. Maybe not the best idea. A little too much local wine probably there, but that was one of many. Just things like that, though. You could never. The cruise ship isn't going to have you on an experience like that. It was a very unique one-on-one type thing.
That's cool.
And so, I mean, that was things like that were fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was cool.
How'd you feel about were you okay being cooped up on a ship, or was that a bit much
I
for
have
you?
some friends of mine that did way worse, if that makes me feel better. But both my wife and I enjoyed the cruise experience. Not going to do one again anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Just, we found that it was just too much, a little bit like for us, maybe we didn't get engaged enough, but a little too much like Groundhog's Day.
I gotcha.
You know, okay, I got to go to the meal again. Oh, we can go to this place or this place. You want to go to Windjammers and do the buffet, or do you want to go down to the My Time Dining? And the food was all good, and the drinks were good, and it was fine. But I don't know. But just it was
I gotcha.
It just to be a little bit too much the same in that regard. But it wasn't horrible.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I'd do it again. Just
If
not
someone else picks.
I'd do
next
it again,
time.
just not soon.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, it was
Well,
It was a great trip.
It's good to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
I may not be here next week. I'm not sure yet. We got new family coming in. Kind of.
New family is exciting.
Yeah, my son's bringing his fiance home for the first time. I mean, we've met her, we know her, but she's never been. I don't know if she's ever been here at all to this area. So,
do you want to? I'm not trying to top your story, but I guess since maybe there's 5 people listening to this right now, but
you think I can tell you? I doubt it, but go ahead.
Is it less than that?
I don't know. Let's see. Go ahead.
Okay. When we were in Mykonos, Greece, and we had a photographer there that we met to do some flying dress photos with my wife.
A photographer?
A photographer.
Mhm.
I have a swollen taste bud on the end of my tongue.
You said photographer.
No, but I'm really, as I get further into this, my numbing agent is wearing off, and it's going to affect me.
Okay.
But we were there, and we'd done this photo event that I found for my wife. It was fun. But we're in this guy's photo studio on a second level in a small, narrow pathway in Mykonos, and our daughter had told us that one of her friends might be in Mykonos at the same time as us. So reached out on a text or a WhatsApp or whatever, and hotel she was staying at was 7 minutes from where we were standing. So she came and met us. Our daughter, as she stood there, is house sitting their house in Roseville, California.
That's funny. Yeah.
So talk about a small world. Because our daughter moved up to the Sacramento area, waiting. Her husband-to-be is starting a new job. They don't want to live together until they get married. And so she's staying with her friend's family.
Okay.
And the friend's family is the new boss for her husband-to-be.
Okay. All right.
So quite a connection that here we are in Mykonos, Greece with. It was.
Imagine if you had gone to Banff, all the people you had run into.
Oh, that's funny.
What's your idea?
I don't have one, but it's not Banff.
All right then, shut up.
It's not Catalina or some single destination.
Get out of here. Well, he doesn't want to go on a cruise.
That was a trip. That was an experience he was on.
Yeah.
Now maybe Northern Ireland,
Get out of here. All right, that'll do it for the after show, right? Unless you got
the Greek Isles.
It's where he was.
Yeah, we hit all 3 of them. 3 of the 12.
What?
There's 9 more.
12 that are connected.
You could have right there. You could have said anything, and it's fine. Listening to you say that is the same as when you talk about the 4L60 and the 4L80 transmission to me. I'm like, oh, all right.
Just change a few pins around, you'll be fine.
Yeah. All right, there you go. Hey, thanks for watching. And like we talked about during the show, if you would, hit subscribe. And if you're not logged in, that was one of the issues with someone I told yesterday. I said,
What's
hey,
that?
you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. And she said, I'm not logging in to subscribe to your. Like, well, what?
It's like, do you have a
Yeah,
YouTube
she
account?
said, she said, no offense, Dad. I don't want to change my algorithm that much by clicking subscribe. And I'm like, well, enjoy your trip.
It really isn't going to do much.
Good luck with the gas money on your trip.
Yeah.
So I kicked her out.
I subscribed to stuff hoping I would get more about it, and all I get is stuff that I was like, what are they sending me?
More notifications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to, you can click the bell. You don't have to.
I want to look for something myself. I don't want them to suggest it necessarily. And when that stupid
that's what
thing
they
pops
want you
up,
to think. I searched for this myself.
and up at the top, they always put stuff that you don't want at the top, and it says no. You got to click from my search to get rid of it.
Uh-huh.
So I found an extension to download to my browser, so now it doesn't show me any of that ad crap. It just shows
there
the
you
YouTube.
go.
I was like, yeah, there we
Nice.
go. Of course, I want to buy it because next week the only thing I'm gonna be interested in is we got another rocket taking off, and they said this time they're gonna land this rocket like they want to.
What about the one where they said, hey, don't take off in that rocket, it's leaking. And then this week they said, it's leaking, but it's probably fine.
Yeah,
and they're
that-
sending them up on Saturday.
Yeah, not Starship though.
No,
Starship is like that thing has enough thrust. If you were to put all the engines, if you were to put those 33 Raptors under this building, you could put this building in space. That's a lot of juice.
Yeah,
and they're going the next version, which comes out I think on 6th. That we got 4 going off now next week. 5 will come after that, which is about ready to launch now.
How big's the Starliner versus the... Yeah. I mean,
it's not much, no, because that's just a people, smaller. But that next version, more Raptor engines, more powerful, and it's insane what they're doing. But I think by looking at it, you were telling the FFA people this morning, don't be afraid to fail. Well, they're not afraid to fail. But they didn't really fail. They said, hey, we tried 3 times. We're experimenting till we get it right. For them to jump and say we're going from a successful landing, Flight 4, to we're going to catch both of them back at our facility and risk losing our launch pads and the building or whatever else they might hit.
Oh, so that I
That's a
didn't
jump.
catch what you're saying. They were going to bring them back to where they started?
Yeah, and they're going to catch them. When it sits there, you see 2 big
Yep.
arms,
Oh, yep.
this Mechazilla, and they're chopsticks, they call it. They release, and then they launch, and they launched an angle from the tower, which has been damaging the tower. Now they're going to launch straight up and then angle off a couple seconds later. They fine-tune this whole space journey by just a couple seconds here and there, and it's made the whole difference. That's what went from an explosion on Flight 1 to a little better in Flight 2 with separation. Just a second gap between cutoff and restart second stage. Well, now they've put a ring between the first and second stage, which will stay on until the second one's gone. Then they'll lose it. But they were pretty close this last time to putting that booster down anyways. The heat shields had some issue on the second one.
When's this going to happen?
June, should be next Wednesday or Thursday. It might be Thursday again in the show. They're because of the weather, they're thinking that could push to Thursday again.
Next week, the screen behind me is going to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But
We can do that.
What's most impressive about it, Chris and I were watching going, there's always been a blackout you hear about with spacecraft. When they come to land, the plasma field is so heavy that signals can't get through it. It's a heat and it's superheated air is plasma going, and so you lose radio contact. So you don't know what's going on. SpaceX was showing us a live stream, a video feed of the spacecraft until it disintegrated coming in, because they have this giant Starlink satellite network. And as this thing's coming in, it's like the Silver Surfer, Doug. This thing's coming in and they're angling the Starship just right that it pushes out the plasma field in a wake like a ski boat does. And they were beaming their signals from the ship back and forth to their satellite network and then relaying them back down. So you can watch
That's
this.
amazing.
As this thing's
That's
coming
amazing.
in, you're watching it. And the side of the ship with no heat tiles happened to be rolled towards Earth. And this thing is just getting torched. And it was surviving that with no tiles. So they've tried to fix that. It's just fun to watch. And, Chris, 3-4 years from now, we'll be like, oh, we had another one? Who cares? We've had 500 this year so far.
Mhm.
But they're getting better. So
And these are all unmanned, right?
they're all unmanned. They haven't even talked about putting a crew on one yet. But when a crew does come, we're talking a couple hundred people size crew is possible on something that big. So if they wanted to take a journey to the moon, they put 200 people on and off they go. But the other cool thing about Starship is that they're already working with models of it, trying to figure out for humanitarian relief. If you have, let's say, a big flood across the anywhere, let's just say anywhere in the world, and you need to get people
Papua
there.
New Guinea just had 2,000 people approximately buried in a mudslide.
Well, within an hour, they could have a Starship loaded with cargo and crew and have it on site anywhere in the world within an hour. Because it can take off, get there fast, land vertically, park itself, open the doors, and you got all the cargo, which is Cruze. So we've got our whole world changing. Then they've also got hypersonic aircraft they're starting to try to develop, which seems crazy. They're just in the talking about it phase now, but the technology that you see coming is just amazing as we go. I mean, you might have a thing where your next, or one of your ARA things for the next generations to come might be, hey, we're going to fly for the day over there. It's going to take an hour to get there, spend the day and come home.
I'll say this. If you can do like the space station instead of Banff, I'd go that way.
Oh,
there you
when
go.
When it comes time.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. I mean, or Mars, maybe.
I'll keep that
the
in mind.
moon.
Okay.
We're going to the moon.
The moon.
Just I know you're not a big fan of being in one, maybe just 2 days.
Oh,
you don't
can you
want to
imagine the claustrophobia there?
To the moon.
All right, there you go. That'll do it for the after show. Thanks, everybody. But seriously, go ahead and subscribe.
Click.
Yeah.
Ding.